Hello, and welcome to Matador News. I'm Evan Stevens.
And I'm Nancy Moreira.
President Obama is at the UN, where he plans to meet with representatives of the 5 Middle Eastern nations who support the first U.S. airstrike in Syria. President Obama says the objective is to degrade and ultimately destroy the Islamic terrorist group.
The overall effort will take time. There will be challenges ahead, but we're going to do what's necessary to take the fight to this terrorist group.
The assault came in 3 waves, with the U.S. Air Force using its F-22 stealth fighter for the first time. The first wave was launched from sea by U.S. cruise missiles. The Pentagon says the airstrikes disrupted major terror attacks planned against the U.S. and Western targets. A terrorist group had established training camps in Syria to develop explosive devices for use in attacks. Deputy National Security Director Advisor Ben Rhodes says the terrorist group had clear ambitions to launch external operations against the U.S. The White House is arguing that the UN Resolution 2170 provides a legal basis for attacking ISIL. The August resolution called for ISIL to disarm its stockpiled weapons. The Obama administration could argue it was enforcing the will of the UN by destroying these weapons.
President Obama has a climate agreement proposal to discuss during today's UN Climate Change Summit. The UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and the President say they want UN member states' participation to reverse global climate change.
There's one issue that will define the contours of this century more dramatically than any other, and that is the urgent and growing threat of a changing climate.
By the end of this century, we must be carbon neutral. We must not emit more carbon than our planet can absorb. No one is immune from climate change.
2 days prior to the summit in Manhattan, the largest climate march in history took place. 400,000 people attended the march. President Obama says the U.S. government will announce a new carbon reduction by next year, adding to the current plan to reduce emissions 17% by 2020.
The Centers for Disease Control say the number of Ebola cases could rise to 1.5 million by the end of the year. The World Health Organization says the death toll from Ebola in West Africa has climbed to almost 3,000 in 6 months. The CDC estimates that if 70% of people with Ebola are properly cared for in medical facilities, the epidemic could decrease and eventually end. Health officials worldwide have stepped up efforts to provide aid, but the virus is still spreading. The World Health Organization warns the disease could sicken people for years without better control measures.
3 are dead in a Birmingham, Alabama shooting. Birmingham Police Chief A.C. Rupert says police were called around 9 this morning to a UPS Center Care Center.
Officers, once they arrived and entered the building, located 3 deceased people in the business. It appears that it's the shooter, who is still wearing his UPS uniform, and 2 other employees.
Police say it looks like the shooter had a self-inflicted bullet wound. The suspect was wearing a UPS employee outfit, but his motive and employment status are still under investigation.
California State University will appoint independent advocates for sexual assault victims on all 23 of its campuses. Matador News reporter Sharell Huey is live with more on the story.
Through the SOS Campus Act, all advocates will be required to support victims with medical rights, law enforcement reporting, and information on their law rights. The advocates will also conduct a public information campaign on all college campuses. CSUN Director for College Services, Mark Stevens, says the new advocates will add to the college by adding resources to the college students.
I think the main idea here is that you don't want the survivor, the sexual assault survivor, to get lost. And so this is a way to be able to, if the survivor would like, is to have a personalized sort of navigator through the system, which could be really useful and important.
In addition to the confidential advocates to the colleges, the California State University system is strengthening training efforts with students and employees. On CSUN campus, I'm Sharell Huey with Matador News. Back to you guys in the newsroom.
Port of Los Angeles fire continues to burn. More than 150 firefighters worked through the night to contain the fire. The Los Angeles Fire Department says the cause of the blaze is due to a torch operation treatment. Cargo ships and employees had to be evacuated from the surrounding areas, but no injuries have been reported at this time. Officials are encouraging surrounding schools and residents to stay inside due to air quality.
And more on the Ebola crisis from Randy Fries.
Thank you, Evan. Sierra Leone President Ernest Bai Koroma is considering a second shutdown to slow the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. Last week, the president issued a lockdown from Friday to Sunday when health workers were able to reach out to people affected by the disease. This is the most dramatic disease control measure taken since the plague swept across Europe in the Middle Ages. President Koroma says the shutdown will help health workers reach out to many people with information about Ebola and how the outbreak can be stopped. U.S. health regulators are warning doctors to be careful of unapproved and counterfeit drugs. Illegal drug distributors are offering healthcare professionals discounted Botox and cancer drugs manufactured overseas. The FDA is raising awareness by faxing flyers to physicians across the country on how to recognize these illegal drugs. Some of the clues include non-English labels, unfamiliar dosing instructions, a different product name than the FDA-approved drug, and missing safety information. And now we turn to Dayanis for the latest in business.
The Treasury Department has set new regulations limiting firms from moving overseas to avoid U.S. taxes. Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew says the U.S. will set higher standards on ownership requirements, making it difficult for companies to ship overseas. Democrats are for the new change, but Republicans would like overall corporate tax revenue to stay the same. New changes go into effect immediately. Any transactions made today will be held to tougher rules. U.S. stocks are down for today. At last check, Dow Jones average fell 0.58% to 17,072.82. Apple is the only stock doing well. It's up to 1.38% to 102.45. General Motors has announced plans to move its Cadillac luxury brand away from Detroit to open headquarters in New York City early next year. GM says they want to create a separate business unit as Cadillac focuses on global growth and tries to establish a fresh identity in the luxury market. In 2013, Cadillac was the fastest growing luxury brand in the U.S. Now let's toss the ball over Randy with the latest in sports.
The Dodgers' magic number stays at 3 after a 5-2 loss to the Giants last night. It was broadcast on local television station KDOC, where millions of fans were able to watch the game. Last night's game was the first of the 6-game series that Time Warner Cable agreed to air on the local television station. These final games will determine whether the Dodgers clinch their division and continue to compete for the World Series. The Dodgers will face off against the Giants tonight at 7. The start of Week 4 of the NFL is here, and an exciting week for football fanatics everywhere is on the way. The Chargers will look to clinch their third win of the season against the Jacksonville Jaguars to solidify their #1 ranking in the AFC West. The Philadelphia Eagles, Cincinnati Bengals, and the Arizona Cardinals remain the only unbeaten teams in the league. The Eagles will face off this Sunday against the 49ers. The Bengals and Cardinals both have a bye week and will resume play on Sunday, October 5th. Let's hand it over to Dayanis with the latest in entertainment.
The science fiction thriller Maze Runner is the top hit in North America box office. During its premiere weekend, the adaptation of James Dashner's best-selling young adult novel finished in first place with an estimated $32 million. In 50 countries, Maze Runner is also in first place, adding an extra $38 million. 20th Century Fox says it has plans to start shooting the sequel in the coming weeks. It's official. Keeping Up with the Kardashians star Kris Jenner is divorcing her longtime husband Bruce Jenner. After nearly a year of separation and 22 years of marriage, they say they are much happier living apart. Kris requested joint custody of their youngest daughter, Kylie Jenner. CSUN students are giving dramatic readings from commonly banned classic books this week. Matador News reporter Lupe Llerenas is live from the Sundial studio with Jennifer Quinonez to speak about Banned Books Week.
Yes, hi, thank you. And I'm here with Jennifer Quinonez Skinner, who's going to talk to us a little bit more about Banned Weeks here at school.
So every year, the American Library Association sponsors a nationwide event to celebrate our freedom to read. And really it highlights challenges and banning of books at schools, campuses, and other places across the nation. And tomorrow at the library from 4 to 6, we're having a banned book celebration, or freedom to read celebration. Sorry. So you'll be able to come in and hear students do dramatic readings from some of the most banned books, challenged books that are out there. And also there'll be pizza. And we have author Craig Williams who will be reading too. So it'll be a fun event, and you'll get to learn a little bit more about some of the challenges that face banned books.
What are some of the banned books that are banned right now?
Well, definitely there's a difference between books that are challenged and banned. So there's always everyday challenges that happen with books nationwide. So those might be at schools, and those are books that people find offensive for language or just an array of different sort of subjective things that they might find with a particular title. Probably the most well-known kind of example of banned books recently was in Arizona with the Mexican American Studies program in January, and those books were taken out of the classroom, and then also the curriculum through a law passed in the state was actually you couldn't read those books because they were considered to be books that would lead you to overthrow the government. So sometimes banned books or challenges to books can be about sexually explicit content. Often it is about certain groups, people not being okay with certain groups. So LGBT books or content is often challenged really frequently. Religious titles, if people don't agree with those titles. And in Arizona, the case was that the books were somehow too nationalistic, or we're going to, books such as The House on Mango Street, which is a charming tale of a girl growing up, and if you've read it, it would lead you nowhere to overthrowing the government. And really the irony of it is that these challenges are actually sort of working against democracy, right? Being able to read anything and know anything and have access to information is what our country is about.
Interesting. And what is this that we have back here?
Well, we have the really cool event tomorrow with pizza from 4 to 6 at the Oviatt Library. And you can actually come into the library after I bring this back over, and we have some banned books, and you can actually take a picture. So you can get your selfie, put it on your Facebook, show your commitment to reading, show your commitment to celebrating our right to read anything that we want to, and how important that is. So this is sort of a mugshot, and you can kind of help spread the word to friends and family online too.
Well, thank you for that information. Now back to you in the studio.
Thank you for watching Matador News. I'm Evan Stevens.
And I'm Nancy Moreira. Have a great day, Matadors.